rations.
What is that?
That's a cradle, a side with a cradle in it, so you would cut it like a regular one, but it would catch, and then you could bundle it from there. So you
Oh,
could catch the meat or whatever.
did you know that, Bill?
Yes, but I've never seen one. Real.
I've like held it and tried to
Wow.
cut, but it's just do that motion. But you can imagine, gosh, the hard work and what they're used to, all the muscle groups that's getting at.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is Glengarry afterwards. So that other map kind of shows this part's mostly settled, and then later they're working their way northwards. So, and then there's Glengarry, Stormont has done that. It was kind of funny because that Lower Canada border, that's the Quebec border now. And Lower Canada was kind of French Quebec before it was Quebec and Ontario. There's Lower and Upper Canada. And a lot of the Scots loyalists were kind of mixed. They bonded on their Scottishness, but they could be Catholic or Protestant, like our Presbyterian for the majority. Whereas here you get there's a lot of English and German loyalists from different areas who were settled, and they were, of course, a lot of Protestant. So between here and then they put the mixed religion into Glengarry, the Scots, that's why they got this portion, to try to harmonize it with Lower Canada, which was predominantly Catholic. So it was kind of like a little religious buffer zone.
I think, ranking in Canada, I think it was belonging to the same as the Brits. But do things, Grandma didn't believe in it.
Oh.
And she took a razor blade and cut all that out of the textbooks.
And so didn't believe it strong enough to deface the book?
Yeah.
That probably would have been.
If it was something she didn't think. Yeah. So what year are these books from?
Those were, I think they were the 20s. But,
Hers are from the late 1800s.
okay.
So we walked across the hall, and this is what, local artists?
Yeah.
All right, so local artists has painted all these and created these. That's very unique there. So.
Yeah, it used to be a library / resource room. So now we get to have exhibits in here. It's nice big space.
Uh-huh.
We got all kinds of figures here.
Sure.
Fun pieces.
So we've come upstairs.
If you look across at that photograph, that's actually what this classroom used to look like back in the 60s.
Oh, this.
Stairs here. And you can see too the little marks on the floor where the desks are.
Oh, wow, look at all this. Oh, my goodness, look at this.
See how that light is. Yeah, the building used to have the stairs in the middle and then 2 walls, and so you had your 2 classrooms up here. Now we have an artifact room built on that long wall, and then a bit of a bigger space here.
I didn't know these were this long.
This guy's actually kind of a mid-ranging canoe. It's 26 feet. They used to go up to 36 feet in the fur trade over here. And we talked about the Northwest Company in this exhibit, because a lot of them, the people who founded it or worked in it as partners and whatnot, either were from Glengarry or retired back in Glengarry later on. So it's a funny thing because it talks about kind of across Canada, or what would become Canada, but we've got a lot of stuff here because of familial ties, I guess. So.
Uh-huh.
And it gets very similar. I guess very similar story to the frontiersmen. Of course, you're a bit northward, but kind of the Pacific Fur Trade Company and all that. Because the Northwest Company, unlike the Hudson's Bay Company, which was around since 1608, they just traded from the Hudson's Bay, and they just made little forays out in the drainage basin to get their pelts, and then brought them all back to the bay in the ship, and then went right to England with them, whereas the Northwest Company was based out of Montreal, and it had to go down the St. Lawrence and then through the Great Lakes and then work its way across Canada through the river system. So it's kind of similar to some of the states where you're going overland.
Oh, this is really beautiful. That is really beautiful.
So it's kind of a Métis shirt and with the beadwork as well. The Northwest Company, one of the things was their policy was that in the start, the company was founded in 1779. Traders were made when they went westwards to marry into indigenous tribes, so they could start kind of diplomatic networking and all that stuff with the different families and tribes. Whereas the Hudson's Bay Company was like, no fraternization, nothing, this and that, we're just here to get the furs and kind of go. So that kind of, with the Northwest Company, you had a lot of European or French Canadians marrying into indigenous different tribes along the way. So that's where you got the birth of the Métis, which is kind of like a mixed race, and that came out of that. So much sweet. And then like, we had like fancy spotlights and all the little tools. I think, but they're doing that by like, you know, this looks like something good. Yeah. Well, a lot of the beads, like beads and whatnot, they were Italian beads, like you see beads being imported from these places, and here it's indigenous, but the beads came from somewhere. But the motifs are indigenous, so it's funny because it is very indigenous, but then again, they had to get that European bead over here, and that was some Chinese beads.
I love maps, and this one is huge. So it outlines look up here, and it says Northwest Company, Fur Trading Partners, and Posts. And it's got, this map is the whole of Canada. No, I don't think it's the whole of Canada. It may be all Canada, because there's the Great Lakes right there. So let me go over here and look. Georgie, you're sorry, I had to turn around, and there's so much to see. There's a buffalo right there, buffalo fur. So let's see. There's Pierce, Fort Oscogan, Columbia River. I don't think it goes all the way to the, I don't see any town on here. It doesn't have the date. Spokane. Aha. So it may have. That may be the coast, west coast there. Okay. So here's pelts of a buffalo, some beaver. We got fox and wolf. Okay, pretty cool. No, Georgie. Georgie. Yeah, I know.
What happened to all my friends? So of course, like textiles made up 40% of the trade, for the fur trade in these years. Which of course, like you think of like tanning hides and whatnot, trying to make your clothing, this is
So,
Sir Alexander Mackenzie was the first European overland, well, from coast to coast. So he came from Montreal. His father was a loyalist, and he came here as a young kid and got an apprenticeship in the fur trade in Montreal. his father died in the Revolutionary War, so he lived with an uncle. And he was the first one to go overland in 1793. So,
And think of how harsh the conditions were.
yeah. So, well, and actually at first he went north, too far north. Instead of going across, they were following the river, and it's now called the Mackenzie River. Eventually, 1793 did that. We do have his compass case there. One of the other things I had in the other case was a Bible. He had given it to his country daughter, so that would have been his.
Really? You have it?
Yeah. And or here, things like the Columbia River. He explored.
That's James Fraser.
Simon Fraser.
Simon Fraser.
Yeah. He didn't get totally but David Thompson, of course, he was kind of crucial to North America, but certainly Canada's top explorer. And he mapped like a sixth of the continent. And oftentimes he was going around with his wife, Charlotte Small, who was Métis. And then they...
So here's a pair of mittens. And look at the beautiful, I don't know what you call that on the mittens, but stitching, I guess. Ah,
That one would have been laid on its side in the riverbank.
sure.
I don't have it like that now because I don't want to compress it, but it's made out of pounded ash strips, which if you read, it's Robin Wall
Really?
who has a book, Braiding Sweetgrass, and she has a really neat chapter,
Oh, super.
and it's weaving baskets, I think, out of
We have one.
ash strips, so it's,
No, ours is saltgrass.
Ours is so good.
Okay. But in that book, she really goes over well with how they first identify what tree would be good to use, and then how they go about the process of getting these strips of the wood off.
So this caught fish and muskrat.
Yeah. So there's a hole on the yeah, we've been importing some traps at these guys. And those are kettles too. Much easier, like you think of making maple syrup. And they
Yeah.
used to boil the stones.
Sure.
Yeah. So now, once they could trade for their kettles, just made that, well, it's still labor intensive, but made it that much easier.
Is that a wolf?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to have a thing where some people will not have everything behind glass or cordoned off.
I mean, the workmanship on this canoe and that fish trap is amazing.
So this guy was made, it was only actually made in 1967.
Yeah, I read the thing.
Okay, and they paddled it here as part of Canada's centennial.
Oh,
and the opening of the
really?
museum.
Oh, wow.
So this is one of the museum founders here, and that's his stuff over that. So this is when he was younger, in 67, when he did that pattern, took the little brigade and they put a Voyageur, trader actors. So the Voyageurs too were like a lot of French Canadian watermen who knew how to navigate rapids and all that stuff. So they were kind of integral. Yeah, the Nor'westers were mostly Scottish in terms of founding the company and the clerks and the partners. And then they, of course, traded a lot with the indigenous and then married into them, even some of the very high up ones. And then you had the French. It was kind of like the three cultures working together because the French were the navigators.
So he made this in 67. Look what he used that.
Yeah. There's a really neat video online if you're
Isn't
doing
that
another one.
Really?
High
Amazing.
power thing he uses a little
Amazing. This is amazing, all this.
So you can look at
I wonder how long did it take him to make that one?
He's passed away now, but there's a film on the National Film Board. You can watch it. It's 1981, I think. And his name is Caesar and the Washers.
Oh,
And he's
is
making
it on
another
YouTube?
one.
bet it is.
I bet it is, everything
Or
is.
on YouTube, or if you go to National, and like it's there, it's free to view. It's pretty neat though, seeing him, it's a different one he makes, but similar. I'm just seeing him get the bark off the chamber door and all that.
Oh, you see this wolf?
Yeah. that part. That's a big dude.
Huh?
So that's a,
Did you miss it though?
well, I got the others.
Blind too, after doing all these measurements and writing this and that. He lost eyesight.
So this is a map that was done by David Thompson, which is a portrait there on the wall, filmed earlier. And they used his maps up until 1920. He died in 1850 something. So that's just amazing that he could have. And she said he died in poverty and blind. Huh. What can you say? Governments everywhere screw you over. They never paid him for the work. I don't think I got these weapons here and the powder pouch, all that stuff to make these guns fire. Okay, so I think we're about done with this. This is an extraordinary good museum. And we have a picture of what the school was like in the 60s. This building that we're standing in. Okay. So in this same town, this is St. Andrew's Church, established in 1787. See that sign over there? Well, this is 1784 to 1984. So with the erection of this plaque, we designate this church and cemetery of St. Andrews as Loyalist, also as a memorial celebrating the bicentennial of the arrival of the United Empire Loyalists in this county, and to honor all the men, women, and children who helped build and preserve this heritage. So you have a large group of people that are Scottish, and they settled, this guy, Duncan Cameron, he settled in Schenectady, New York. His father served with a Loyalist regiment during the American Revolution, following which the family moved to Glengarry in 1784. And so then he worked for the Northwest Company, was a manager of its Red River Department, and he persuaded Lord Selkirk's settlers to abandon their lands. When Selkirk forces attacked Fort Gibraltar in 1816, Cameron was captured and taken to England. Released and compensated for false arrest, he returned to Williamstown in 1820. He died in 1848 and is buried here. So, good Lord, we got Celtic crosses. We have the Macmillan immigration. And a beautiful little stone church. Walk on down here. MacArthur, Roger McLaughlin, Gunn, MacDonald. Amazing. And then we have what the church looks like on the side. All right. Compared to yesterday, this is absolutely wonderful. I have to remember what Ken told me. Keep the camera up. So this is the Raisin River, as you can see the sign. There's that house there is in the Heritage, in Canadian Heritage Society. And then we have the Martin City, that's the name of this town, Martin City Gristmill. It was built in 1846. And I have no idea when they quit using it. And if we look right across the road, we have this beautiful home called Bonnie Folly. Bonnie's Fowl, I don't know. I'm positive these two buildings were connected. Maybe the owner lived there, owned the grist mill. That's what I think. So we have the grist mill, and then there's a hotel that's supposed to be worth looking at. And then we're going to look at a church in another town. These little towns are just gorgeous. They're neat, they're clean. It's like the town where I bought the bread and got my edibles. So we have this church with no roof. And I'll read you this historical sign here. Where are you? I don't want her running in the... So early in September of 1786, a group of some 500 Scottish Highlanders, majority of whom were MacDonalds, arrived at Quebec. They were led by their parish priest from Knoydart, Glengarry, the Reverend Alexander MacDonald. Forced to immigrate because of the depressed economic condition of the Highlands, they had been encouraged to come to Canada and settle among their fellow countrymen in what is now Glengarry County. Despite initial hardships, most of these Scottish pioneers settled successfully in this region, where their loyalty and military prowess was frequently demonstrated. Father MacDonald founded the parish of St. Raphael, one of the province's earliest Roman Catholic congregations. All right, so let's go look at this thing. It was built in 1786, and 1972 it caught fire. And that's the only thing memorable in this town, is this church. So 1786, I think they've done some restoration work, which would be normal. Let's go look. It says it was stabilized in 74 by the Ontario Heritage Foundation. So yeah, that's what I thought. You can see the difference here.
People get married here, they have weddings here.
So this is pretty cool. This MacDonald, the priest, he's a big guy, 6'4". So,
Can you go down there, Georgie?
so this is pretty unique. So they restored it or stabilized it. It said in
Are you looking around?
1974.
What do you see under there? What do you see, huh? That bell was burnt. destroyed it.
Yeah, I probably fell down and broke that bell.
Yeah, you stay with Daddy, I'm cold, I'm going back to the car.
Okay, so this is a cool place. It's nice. Yeah, you can see. Oh my goodness, I didn't see any of those. In memory of. These are all people that lived in this community, I'm sure. And there's a bunch over there. Okay, what we're looking for is a little restaurant where we can sit outside. Well, we'll probably find one.